In the mid-20th century, people living near major airports began reporting a terrifying phenomenon. Out of a clear blue sky, massive chunks of solid blue ice would plummet from the heavens and absolutely destroy the roofs of their houses. They crushed cars, they punched through ceilings. The Federal Aviation Administration eventually traced these projectiles back to a multi-million-dollar engineering crisis happening 35,000 feet in the air. Welcome to The Subject History, where we take ordinary objects and expose their extraordinary hidden pasts. If you like uncovering the weird truth behind normal things, hit subscribe. Today, we're looking at the airplane toilet. In the very early days of aviation, human waste management was basically just a bucket. Early flight was marketed as peak luxury. You'd sit in these creaky wicker chairs, sipping champagne. But if you actually had to use the bathroom during turbulence, you were hovering over an open hole that dumped straight out the bottom of the fuselage. The smell of avgas mixing with raw sewage was just part of the ticket price. By the 1960s, airlines introduced chemical toilets. These used a heavy, deodorizing blue liquid, often called blue juice. It sloshed aggressively every time the plane banked. These chemical systems relied on exterior mechanical valves to drain the tanks once the plane landed. Those valves had a nasty habit of leaking slowly while in flight. As commercial cabins became quieter and more sophisticated, the plumbing hidden just beneath the floorboards was quietly turning into a liability on the outside of the plane. But how do you solve a plumbing disaster when you're flying near the speed of sound? The problem became critical with the birth of the jumbo jet. Suddenly, aircraft like the Boeing 747 were carrying hundreds of passengers across oceans. That meant bringing along hundreds of gallons of that chemical blue juice just to keep the toilets functional for the duration of the flight. Water is incredibly heavy. Every single pound of blue liquid sitting in the belly of a 747 was a pound of paying cargo, or essential jet fuel they couldn't carry. It was dead weight, costing airlines a fortune. Up at 35,000 feet, the air is well below freezing, so that trickling chemical-laced waste instantly froze into massive stalactites on the cold metal underbelly of the plane. When the plane descended into warmer air, that ice melted just enough to detach. What happens next involves a 130-mile-per-hour pipe hurricane that finally solved the problem of falling waste. The aviation industry had hit a wall. They could not build bigger planes or fly longer routes until they figured out how to completely eliminate heavy liquid from the plumbing. The mechanical challenge is brutal. You need to forcefully transport solid matter from a bathroom at the front of a 200-foot cabin to a holding tank at the extreme rear, using almost zero water. Standard home plumbing won't work. Your house uses gravity. Gravity is useless when a metal tube is climbing at a 20-degree angle or dropping sharply during turbulence. Early attempts to solve this were slightly desperate. Engineers pitched complex mechanical conveyor belts. Some even suggested localized high-heat incineration right there in the bathroom. Which, sure, fine, let's start a fire in a sealed oxygen tube. Outside the plane, it's a hostile void. The atmosphere is dangerously thin. The air pressure is incredibly low. The breakthrough didn't come from fighting that environment. They realized the deadly low-pressure atmosphere outside the window was the exact tool they needed to fix the plumbing. In 1975, an inventor named James Kemper filed a patent that changed commercial aviation history. Kemper bypassed mechanical pumps entirely. He relied on differential pressure. Inside the cabin, the air is highly pressurized for the passengers, but outside, it's a near vacuum. Kemper designed a system where the holding tank is exposed to that outside void. When you hit the flush button, a motorized valve opens for just 2 seconds. That valve sits directly between the pressurized cabin and the unpressurized tank. The high-pressure air desperately wants to escape into the low-pressure tank. It creates a localized hurricane inside the pipes. It rips the waste out of the bowl at over 130 miles per hour, using barely a splash of nonstick fluid. The airlines were ecstatic. Overnight, they shed thousands of pounds of dead liquid weight on every single flight. Kemper used the invisible physics of high-altitude flight to do the heavy lifting. He saved the industry millions in fuel. But what does that mean for you trapped in that tiny bathroom today? Today, Kemper's vacuum system is standard. It's the reason we can pack hundreds of people into metal tubes and fly across the globe without dropping blue ice on anyone's minivan. And just to kill a persistent urban legend, you cannot get physically sucked into the toilet. The seat is deliberately shaped so a human body can't form a perfect seal. The valve closes entirely too fast anyway. That sudden, deafening roar is high-pressure cabin air washing toward the low-pressure void outside. This mechanism keeps the waste moving fast enough that it can't leak, freeze, and fall on someone's house. You've been watching The Subject History. If you want more weird facts about normal things, hit subscribe and ring the bell. I want to know down in the comments, what's the weirdest thing you've ever heard while flying on a commercial jet? See you next time.